right, and welcome to Balanced. Today we're going to do something a little bit different than what we normally do. Normally we look at politics and the insanity that surrounds that, but we're going to mix it up some today, and we're going to look at a couple of other topics that are not necessarily political, but do kind of touch on the political things. Now, the one thing we are not going to do, for as long as I can continue to make this happen, we are not going to switch up our guest with Dr. Paulette Clark because I am always excited to talk to her. She is a brilliant lady, and I always learn from her. So please welcome Paulette Clark back to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I
So
am
glad
good.
to be here again. I understand we're going to be doing some talking today.
Yes, we are going to change things up. Because normally you and I have very lively and interesting discussions on political topics.
Mm-hmm.
But today I wanted to do something a little bit different.
Okay.
Now, I doubt there's anybody out there that hasn't heard of the Diddy situation.
Right.
But when it first came out, I did not want to talk about it because, quite frankly, freak off parties and that sort of thing, it's like, look, as we've discussed in the past, I'm a sound believer in if it's consenting adults behind closed doors. Right. I don't care if it's 2 people, 5 people, 15 people. If it's all consenting adults,
correct.
It's nobody else's business, in my view.
I agree.
You involve children. You involve drugging people with horse tranquilizers, etc. Well, now you've delved into the area of rape and child molestation, and those are horrific topics, alleged. But there's been some developments that's come out, and the first thing I want to touch on is a comparison to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, obviously, when I say that, you would think the very first thing you would think of is underage.
Yeah,
that would be the first thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to look at it a little bit differently.
Okay.
Now, let's say hypothetically that you are worth $20 million.
Okay.
All right. If you're worth $20 million, unless you are buying yachts, planes, things of that nature, at that level, you can pretty much buy anything.
Right.
I mean, you're set for life.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched the Jeffrey Epstein saga unfold, and he allegedly suicided, etc. But he was doing recordings and blackmailing.
I didn't know
that. From what all the news reports say, well, we can't figure out where his money came from. Well, you've got a whole lot of powerful people on tape. But then they say, Homeland Security raided Diddy's, and he had a whole lot of people on tape. Okay. I don't know exactly what Diddy was worth, but they're thinking closer to like $1 billion.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah.
So if you're worth $1 billion, and if Dr. Clark is worth $1 billion and she's got me on tape doing something I shouldn't be doing, and she wants to blackmail me, you've already got $1 billion. I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
We normally think of blackmail as financial. But if you're already worth $1 billion and there's nothing that I have that could be
of any benefit to you.
Right.
From a monetary perspective. Okay. I'm following. Let's go.
So, and when I discuss this, think about it in terms of both of them. Because Jeffrey Epstein had unbelievable amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
He owned an island. So if you have this evidence, whatnot, and you're blackmailing people, but it's not about money. What are you blackmailing them for?
Um,
Remember in the Epstein case, you had politicians, ultra rich, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that came out early on in the Diddy case was, well, hip hop, you know, singers. Oh, well, now
Mhm.
let's delve it into Hollywood because of the parties. Oh,
Right,
but wait,
right.
we also had politicians at the parties. Okay. Once again, you're still worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
So what could you possibly want to blackmail these people for?
Influence, power.
Yes. So let's say, and you and I would agree on this point, the
Right,
media
right.
tries to control the masses.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter which side you're on. That's what they tried to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So influence. So now, if we're trying to control the masses, but the masses now have social media, and the masses now look at look at our favorite mainstream networks and go, "Y'all are giving me a bunch of garbage. How do you
Right.
influence it?" Well, I guess one way is you could have your favorite stars start coming out with their opinions to help influence the masses.
Right. Hence,
You're
there's
going
a whole industry that does that.
an entire industry that does that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, one of the things that came out in relation to this, and I'm not in any way suggesting that this is related in any way whatsoever, so don't take that,
Okay.
was Taylor Swift, one of the most popular singers on the planet.
Mhm.
I came out and endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Now, I'm not making any judgments there whatsoever, but you are one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. You
Hmm.
have all these fans.
Yeah.
That could harm your fan base, couldn't it?
It could. It could.
I mean, I've heard Dolly Parton come out and say, "No, I'm not getting involved in that.
Right.
I'm here for, my fans and what we do." And I actually agree with that. If you're on that level and you have all these fans, why would you try to influence them
Yeah.
outside of what you do, because that could hurt your bottom line
Right.
theoretically. And I'm not suggesting that's related to Diddy at all, but it just interesting,
Hmm.
because if you don't need the money, influence is
It's
the only
about
other thing I can
power,
think of.
but it was
I
also about power. He was ego tripping, I think.
I I agreed, completely
I
agreed.
think because he had nothing to be, maybe he did it because when you look at some of the deals and things that he was doing, he could literally, from what I'm understanding, because I'm probably receiving the same information that you are, or sometimes I'll go down the rabbit hole and I'll,
Right?
but from what I'm understanding, if he wanted something, um, this dude seemed to have some kind of strategy. Like you get invited to a party, and then all of a sudden, after 10 o'clock, the word on the street was is if you didn't want to participate or partake in any further activities, you went home. You left.
Yes.
But if you
Yes.
decided to stay, then of course you would understand, according to the Cat Williams of the world and others, you might find yourself in a room somewhere. And
Yes.
afterwards, after learning that you were recorded, he could easily say, "This is what I want, and you're going to give it to me, or
Mhm.
I'm releasing or divulging X, Y, and Z, and you're going to sign." And I don't know. This sounds like an episode of like the worst power television series ever. Like this literally was going on. This dude was manipulating people using
Yes.
his power and influence. And also, I'm gonna also put this out here too. To your point, what grown folks do in their bedroom is their business, as long as it is between consenting adults. If it's two, if it's five, if it's 10, in my position, in my thought process. I
Right.
don't care what you do in your bedroom because it's not hurting me. So, what I will say is I 100% agree with you when you're talking about bringing, people across state lines against their will, when you're talking about using the 1,000 bottles of baby oil to put on the floor so the women of the night would not run away, when you're talking about bringing now you said something earlier about using horse tranquilizers. I hadn't heard that.
Ketamine.
My God. And so when I hear things like this and understanding to your point that this guy literally had everything according to what we could see with our physical eyes. If
Right.
he had everything, why would you? The only thing I could think of is number one, I'm gonna go follow me. I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole just a little bit.
A little bit. Okay.
I'm thinking in my head that there were times when it was always about bad boy north, bad boy south, bad boy this, bad boy that, and then it was Ciroc. We learned later he didn't own Ciroc. He was the one that they put in the face of Ciroc. And so now you have this persona of helping these major corporations who couldn't get into the black market because of your influence. And so
Right.
now you're bringing in tons of cash. You're also bringing in tons of cash from television shows that you've done, reality TV series that you've done, from bands and acts who you created, who had the talent that you did not have, and are now angry because they never got their money. They never
Right.
got what you promised them. But in
Right.
all of that, it sounds like a man who has amassed not only wealth, but power. And
Yes.
it didn't seem to be enough for him to have the power that he had. He wanted more of it because it put him in positions that let's just put it out here, regular folks like you and I probably will never get to. And I'm not
Right.
saying in my position, listen, I've done some things, you've done some things because we've had lives outside of what we're doing right now. But most other people are not going to sit with the president. They're not going to sit with the kings
Right.
and queens of the world. They're not going to travel all over the world and see and do and be whatever they want to be and drive a different car for every day of the week and take care of their moms and purchase her homes and take care of his kids, her kids, and everybody else. There are a lot of people who will never have that opportunity to do that. That gave him power, that gave him prestige, that made people look at him in a different light as opposed to just the thug down the street, quote unquote. So
Right.
I think that some of this was also just a regular old power trip.
I
And
could see that. Yes.
he never had anything to gain outside of, I got you on tape, bro. What you said you wasn't gonna do for me?
Yes.
Now let's smile for the camera.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
And in doing that, and one of the things that's really bothered me ever since he was first arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of things have bothered me, but
Ooh, sure.
they've charged him with conspiracy,
Mm-hmm.
which you cannot charge unless there is more than one person.
Okay.
You can't, because you can't have a conspiracy of one person. It has to be at least two. No one else has been charged yet. And to do what you do with those kind of parties, it is utterly impossible to do alone. Who bought the baby oil? Who transported the people? And by the way, to your point on transportation across state lines, and I realize that it is the law, I disagree with it. In my mind, if you transport, let's say, a sex worker, you fly them from one place to the other to engage in those activities. If that person is an adult and consenting and getting paid for it, I don't have a problem with that.
Right. I agree.
Because that's under consenting adults.
Right.
To me, that's the same as if I say, hey, Dr. Clark, I want to take you out to dinner. We're going to go to dinner, a nice dinner. We're not going to the movies. We're going to go to a Broadway show. And then at the end of the night, we're going to wind up back at my place.
Right.
So I've just spent $800, $1,000 because my goal was to reach that end game.
Yeah.
How is that different than me saying, Dr. Clark, you know what? How about I just give you the $1,000 and let's skip the first two parts and just go back to my place? It's the same thing. So I don't have a problem
Okay.
with that, but
Yeah.
I do have a problem with getting drugged with a horse tranquilizer where you are still aware and can still feel everything, but you can't move. That's
No,
that's insanity. But before we go too far down this rabbit hole, because you and I could talk for the next several hours on that,
yeah, we could.
Where it got interesting to me.
You are so right. I am so sorry, sir. I apologize. I didn't know. You go on to the next topic. I just, you know me, during the show, I like to read up and do the fact for the viewers and listeners. Diddy has been accused of abusing a 9-year-old child and spiking drinks with horse tranquilizer as 120 victims come forward. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
All right. Well, this is the Busby Law Firm out of Texas.
Okay.
And to give props where I gather some information, I watched the Stephen A. Smith podcast where he had Mr. Busby on and discussed it in detail. Also, Mr. Busby put out a press conference. Apparently, now I never heard of him before, but he has a big reputation. He's been involved in some high-profile things, and he's really, really good. Yes, and he's come out, and they're not doing a class action. They're doing them individual lawsuits. 120 clients so far. 25 of those clients were underage at the time of the alleged actions.
Oh,
the youngest one being 9 years old at the time of whatever incident. So, what Mr. Busby mentioned in his press conference, which has come out to be factual, was there are A-listers who are already deleting their social media. But he mentioned a couple of other things that I found very interesting.
I'm all ears.
You can, if you and I are sending text messages, you can delete your side, but you can't delete mine. And guess what he has? The text messages from the other side.
Other side, my goodness. I need to.
And here's where I think it's really going to get interesting. Some of these people, according to him, some of his clients had to go to the hospital afterwards.
What?
After they went to the hospital, they were drug tested at the hospital. He's got the medical records.
My God.
Of the drugs.
Oh my God.
Nobody takes. To me, I can't imagine any individual taking a horse tranquilizer deliberately.
Right.
So if you've got the medical records, how strong is your case? In his press conference, and I appreciated this because it's something that's been bugging me. In his press conference, he said, we're not just going after Diddy. Mm-hmm. We're going after everyone who participated in it.
Yeah.
We're going after people who watched it and egged it on. We're going after the people who saw it and did nothing, said nothing.
Yep.
We're going after the corporations, the pharmaceutical companies that supplied things. We're going after the hotels that actually facilitated it and didn't say anything about it. Didn't turn them in, took bribes of $10,000, according to Mr. Busby, alleged. And I thought, well, you know what? That's a good thing. And here's why.
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree.
Let's say that you saw something at one of these, that individual A saw something.
Yeah.
And it was a child. But never said a word. Didn't participate. Didn't anything.
Didn't say a word. So you were just
so from a legal standpoint, they didn't break the law, and so they can't come after them legally. But in a civil suit, you can. You can name them and bring them out in a civil suit.
Mm-hmm.
How, as a human being,
right? Okay.
Could you see a 9-year-old child getting harmed and not say anything? Now, when you're inside the house, I understand that he wouldn't allow anyone else's security in, only his own. You might be scared for your life.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have left and gone directly to the police, filed a report. It's it's mind-boggling to regular people how anyone could harm a child. And then to do this on such a level that it's all out there. I mean, it's just like this, everybody knows, but nobody's saying anything.
Exactly. Exactly. But you know what? Here's the thing. We had heard through the grapevine about not just Diddy, but also about R. Kelly and so many others.
Yes. And there's
I
so
would
many names that are being dropped now,
being dropped. Right. Yeah.
and we don't know. I mean, actually, we know because we've heard it through the grapevine, but we don't know as in a situation where we could be called to testify because we were there, never actually
Right.
saw
Right.
something.
Yeah.
But if it comes out, if
Yeah.
they actually file these lawsuits, and I've only heard one really disturbing thing so far, and I'll get to that point in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
If the lawsuits are actually filed and if the names comes out, and he said it's going to be a lot of names that you know and a lot of names that you don't,
Mm-hmm.
because most of us won't know John Doe from
Right.
the pharmaceutical company.
Mm-hmm.
So there's gonna be names we don't know, but at least from social media and the names that people are surmising that were involved,
Mm-hmm.
it's so big it could disrupt the entire industry.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
I'm absolutely sure.
the
Yeah.
sick part is, if it's true, and all these people that we've been watching for years and thinking we're such wonderful people, all of a sudden, maybe we need to rethink who our heroes are,
Exactly.
who are the people we look up to.
Yep. Yep. And that's, it's funny that you bring that up, because coming from the entertainment industry, I saw so much. And even from the music side, I had friends who were in film and who were in movies, and who were a part of the crews, who did the work for the major folks. And so we would all hang out, and you would hear things, and they would talk, and I would go. And then years later, it would all come out, So like the Whitney Houston situation, I knew about that years before it actually hit the mainstream. Stories of other folks. I'm going to leave people nameless at this point because it could get pretty dangerous. But people that I know for certain were in the room because they were roommates in XYZ with certain people and movie stars and whatnot who were lived double lives. We're going to leave it right there. And it's still coming out to this day. And I just shake my head and I go, so back then, here's what's different though, David. What's different is the fact that social media, and we have cameras everywhere.
Yes.
And people are not afraid to talk like they were back in the day. Because like you said, these were our heroes, but the press was different as well too. To another point that you made earlier was the press manipulates. All you need is a PR team to send to the press and to the media exactly what you want them to say. Because something that I learned in one of my very first marketing classes, I have an MBA in advertising and marketing, was John Q. Public is stupid, right?
Yep.
And so because of that, if you tell somebody something long enough, here's the truth. Two things that I've also learned being in radio. I'm giving some tea here because it goes back to your point. If you tell someone something 21 times, it becomes a habitual thought, not just an action, but a thought. In radio, the rule of thumb for you to get familiar with your local radio station is for the DJ and the station itself to provide you with the call letters, a minimum, not a max, a minimum of 120 times per hour. You hear it so much that you forget that you're hearing it. This is Magic 104.5. This is 92. You get what I mean? Then after a while, you get used to hearing it. It's the same thing. If I hear that Joe Schmo, the magic, the magician who is world renowned, is giving away children's shoes in Africa, we're going to totally bypass the fact that he beats his wife and his children.
Yeah.
All you got to do is say it long enough. Yeah. So there you go. That's my point. I'm sticking to it. That is really okay. Wait. Do you mind? The Busby Law Firm. I pulled it up. You know, I had to pull it up because, like,
of course, you always pull it up.
I cannot believe. So wait. The Busby Law Firm has been associated with the Ava Law Group to act as lead counsel to pursue claims on behalf of more than 50 individuals who suffered sexual assault and abuse at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his cohorts. There's that word. So, Dave, I agree with you that everybody that was a part of it should be held accountable because you knew.
Yeah.
And that meant in some way you participated.
Right. And I want to make very clear, if let's say people who attended Diddy's parties, because there was obviously the party, the after party. Okay. But let's say that you attended and you ran into A, B, C, and D friends.
Right.
And the five of you went back to a room. You did your thing as consenting adults. I personally don't think that your name should ever come out.
Right.
Because you were not involved in, not a part of, did not help any sort of criminal acts. And I realize that the gossip thing, people want to know, but I don't think it should. Because if you're innocent, you do not deserve to have your life ruined on this. But if you're not innocent, and one of the things I appreciated about Mr. Busby, he said, we are taking our time, because we want to have all the corroborating evidence that we have, because we do not want to name one innocent person in this.
Correct. I love that.
I completely agree with that. However, you know what? Before we move to this point, imagine you would know, but I want to give a little legal difference between the words blackmail and extortion.
Come on with it.
Blackmail means you did something wrong. I got the proof. Now you're going to pay me, or I'm going to tell on you. Extortion basically means if you don't pay me, I'm going to make up something and ruin you. Big difference. The last thing I heard on Busby Law Firm is they were reaching out to the A-listers. Remember, it's a civil suit, so you can do a settlement without it actually coming public. Because now they're reaching out to A-listers and saying, well, we got something on you. Do you want to settle with the client, or are we going to court? And already it's coming out, well, people are going to settle. Right. No kidding. If you got $200 million and they want $10 million to settle and go away, you're going to do that. And then the Busby Law Firm and the Ava Group is going to get 30% of that. Right. They stand up and make millions along with it.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
And I don't like that, because I don't think you should be able to buy your way out of a criminal act.
I agree with that. I agree.
Also, I would be very disturbed. Now, I realize that in civil litigation, especially in these types of things, some people, victims, don't want to come forward, don't want to be known. And I get that. Whether it's male or female, I do get that, because the humiliation, the shame.
Okay. Yep.
I get that. But if you've got 25 clients who were underage, no matter what your age is now, I would not look down on you in the slightest or think differently. You were a victim.
A victim. Yeah.
You were horrifically treated. And to me, every piece of evidence that he's got on those victims should already be in the hands of prosecutors.
They probably already are or on their way.
I hope so. He did say that he already has some of his clients that are already talking to prosecutors.
Mm.
Good. Good.
So do
Because
you?
you should not, if you are a hotel manager, hotel chain, you shouldn't get away with knowing that kind of illegal activity is going on inside your hotel. And maybe the feds can't charge you because you didn't participate, but now you can come out and go, no, you're not going to get away with it.
Right.
And maybe you're the guy delivering the drugs, or you're the person, all of these people. You can't have something of that magnitude and not have a lot of people involved.
Absolutely not. And he's been doing this for years. This isn't new. This
isn't new.
And so this case, this guy's going to be locked up for a long time behind this, just waiting for an actual trial date, probably.
Oh, of course.
As they do all of their investigating and so forth. And I think he's done. And, it goes back to something very simple that my mother used to say all the time. And it's you reap what you sow, whether it be good or bad, you do.
Yes.
And eventually it comes back to get you. And we have to be careful, because what you put out, you do get back, but it doesn't come back in the form that we think that it does or that it should. So because basically it's, what did you sow? I sowed lies. I sowed deceit. I sowed mistrust. And so you'll find that coming back to you. And I think that in this instance, Mr. Combs has created this entire experience. And there are other accusations that the other things that he's been accused of as well, including his participation in Tupac's unaliving. I'm going to put it that way.
Right. Allegedly. Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that. And actually there was a news report on the guy that was arrested for the act, stating that he paid $1 million for it to be done. So how true is all of this? Or also, do we have people who are just wanting their 5 minutes of fame? But then also, I'm going to say this, and I know we have to move on, but in all of these people that have or want this 5 minutes of fame, now everybody's talking. Where were you when this was going on?
Yep.
What were you so afraid of that now you're willing to open your mouth? Because honestly, one of the biggest things that we know is that regardless, he still has that kind of juice behind bars, because I'm sure he can make phone calls. He can do certain things because he's not broke.
And he has co-conspirators who I'm sure are acting on his behalf.
That part.
But I want to bring up just another little topic or another little point about this. And these are rumor mill.
Yeah.
One of them was that he's been working with the FBI for years.
Mm-hmm.
If that's true, it's even more disturbing that they would put people in situations in order to, have them influence.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's true, on government.
Right.
All right. Let's compare it back. The Epstein client list never came out.
No, it didn't.
Okay. But if you could name one person who was accused of being, do you know who it is? Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
But how did his name get out? Because the victim came forward.
Told it.
The victim, not the U.S. government, not the FBI, not law enforcement, the victim. Well, let's fast forward here recently. How did this come out? The victim, Cassie, came forward. That's when it all
came forward. Can I go here? I want to go. I apologize. I apologize in advance. But I want to go down this rabbit hole because I didn't know we were going to be talking about this because you always surprise me on what the topic is going to be. But I went down the rabbit hole last week, and I've been watching some videos on other podcasters talking about the fact that Diddy was suing the company that owns Ciroc.
Right.
So I'm going to put this out here because I think that sometimes we get too big for our britches, and I'm going to put myself in the conspiracy mill because in my head that's probably what this is. But how far off am I? So you decide that you are going to sue the company that let me look it up. Let's see. The name of the company is Diageo. And Ciroc is owned by this British-based multi-international alcoholic beverage company, Diageo, and they put his face on the cover of Ciroc. So word on the street is that Diddy got upset that they were putting a ton of money and marketing and cash into George Clooney's new brand that he had started with a friend, and they had dropped a bunch of cash, a couple mil from one. It was an exorbitant amount, and so he got mad and sued based on racism, and it was getting ready to move forward. Well, of course, attorneys are going to do what attorneys do. First of all, a multinational beverage company who is worth billions of dollars.
That's called having power and influence at a whole nother level.
And influence. All I have to do at this level is pick up a phone. Because guess what we're going to do? Since you started this suit in February, you have had more trouble. Since you started this suit in February and you got above your head and you thought that we owed you something, when in reality, we don't owe you anything. Thank you for making Ciroc what it is in the Black community, because everybody wants to have a bottle of Ciroc at the club, you know, behind the red robe, the velvet robe. So here's my thought in my head, and this is what I'm surmising. There's something during most suits of any kind called a discovery. You're going to have to do a discovery. Well, since you want to try to sue us for multi-millions of dollars, hold my beer. Let's go down the rabbit hole and let's bring some people to the fold, because we've known all along what you've been doing. Let's go ahead and start making some things a little bit more public. And then the situation with Cassie came out, and you just basically took the nails and sealed your own coffin with that, brother. So I think that am I saying that Diageo has anything to do with what's happening to him? It wouldn't surprise me. Because if you're trying to bring down a multi-billion-dollar corporation behind your allegations of racism, when we could have left you by the wayside from Jump Street, honestly, I'm going to do some discovery. And guess what's going to happen? This is going to get tied up in all kinds of red tape anyway, all kinds of stuff. Because right now, honey, you're dealing with something much bigger. All we have to do is make a call. All we have to do is a little bit of discovery and put the word out there, and then everybody else is going to go with it anyway. And from what I'm understanding, this kind of stuff really does happen with these major corporations. So I don't know.
Well, I will say this, and because you're not the only person that I've heard that from.
Yeah.
We have that mutual friend.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first thing that mutual friend said to me. And my response to that is, that's even more disturbing.
Very.
If that is true, that's even more disturbing, because that means you're telling me that they knew.
Mm-hmm.
It's already stated that there were some politicians that participated.
Mm-hmm.
Our own investigative agencies have already gone in and taken the tapes, and this is what I got a problem with, the recordings, etc. This is what I got a problem with, same as Epstein. If you have the video and audio proof, why does it take so long?
Why does it take so long?
You've got the video. Now, I don't personally believe that they should release those videos to the public.
Yeah.
Why should you release? It's like I would not want to see a rape video, which is what that would be.
Right.
I don't want to see it. And I don't think any decent human being wants to see that. They just want justice done.
Justice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the whole thing is crazy to me. I'm actually hoping that the Busby law firm is actually able to bring these suits, because I think that may be the only thing that forces Homeland Security, the FBI, the Justice Department to actually do something about it. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll just cover it up again.
Yeah, I think this time they're going to have to, because
if it's gone too public.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything until it went public before. So why?
And too many people knew. Well, I think now again it comes down to you reap what you sow. And you thought that you were too big for your britches. Well, Epstein proved that you can be too big for your britches and you can still be held accountable. Bill Cosby,
a lesson learned right there.
Yeah. I mean, so I think, and it's here's where the conspiracy I'm kind of locked out on that whole conspiracy thing. He's a black man and he did. No. Yes, he's black. He's African American. But at the same token, he is someone who committed a crime.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's it.
You should not get special treatment because if you're black and you've committed those kind of crimes, allegedly, if you've committed those crimes, your skin color should have nothing to do with it. Because I know too many black people who are wonderful, who would never dream of doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So no, you shouldn't get special treatment. You should have justice.
Period.
And yes, and I think not just for Sean Combs, but for everybody else involved. Because I mean, you watch the videos, you watch the social media, and you go, okay, this isn't just black people. There's plenty of white people involved.
Oh my goodness!
There's plenty of everything.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people, and by all means, take them all down.
Yep.
And I think the only way is for people to come forward like this law firm and go, we're going to make it public. Because once you make it public perception will force the Justice Department to actually do something about it.
Yep.
And I think it's the only way. We just watched with Epstein. They covered it up. And we know, and none of us believe that our politicians are squeaky clean.
At all.
Okay, so that was my thoughts on how I wanted to discuss the Diddy case without going into the, that's okay. That's juicy gossip, but I'm just not. The only other topic I really wanted to talk about, and this actually, there's things about it that really upset me.
Okay, I'm listening.
We have the Hurricane Helene aftermath going on right now.
Aftermath, please, yes.
With Hurricane Milton coming. There are good and bad to situations like this.
Right.
And some of the good, and you'll remember this because the hurricanes in previous years, all of a sudden we heard of something we never heard of before called the Cajun Navy, which was basically a bunch of rednecks out of Louisiana went and saving people in their bass boats.
Okay.
But then it came up yes, but then it really grew to the point where they're not actually officially working with FEMA and different things because that's what it is. It's regular citizens hooking up their bass boats to their trucks and going and saving people. And that I think is worthy of mentioning of the humanity, the good humanity in people. And by the way, it's things like that prove, does race matter in that situation? No, it doesn't. It's all these people helping each other, helping fellow citizens in the most horrific of times. And that to me is a really shining beacon of what this country should be.
Yes. I agree.
But then once the government gets involved, things just kind of go south.
Oh, God.
So let me
So
get this straight.
let's talk about Hurricane Milton really quick. Right now, it's a strong category 4. Wanted to kind of put that out there for viewers and readers. And it's forecast to make landfall tonight as a slightly weaker major hurricane somewhere in Florida's central Gulf Coast, where it could be one of the most destructive storms on record. Exactly where it comes ashore could shift before landfall and alter where the most life-threatening storm surge occurs in the Tampa area and along Florida's Gulf Coast. It's actually growing a little bit weaker, but here's the thing: a weaker Milton won't mean less devastation, particularly with a larger storm. This sucker is huge, from what I'm understanding, and it has a smaller eye. And so over the past 24 hours, the tropical storm force winds expanded from 105 miles to 125 miles from its center. This means its disastrous impacts will be felt over a much larger area. Tropical storm force winds are expected to cover over the entire width of the Florida peninsula.
Yeah. And this is just right on the heels of the last one.
Yep, and there's an behind it, right?
North Carolina, Tennessee, all these places just got completely whole town's gone.
Yeah.
And now you're out there. You've got, the social media conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. Well, FEMA stopping supplies, and we don't know for sure. We're not personally there.
Right.
Elon Musk came out and said he was trying to send stuff in, and his people were saying they were stopping it. But they did get Starlink up. And they were sending helicopters out, but I don't even know if this is true. It was rumored, he said, we can't land because you have to know who you're going to. Well, we don't know who we're going to because we don't have that. That's why we're going. It's a catch-22.
Wow.
But you've got these people. And then our own government comes out and says, okay, you can apply to receive $750.
Wait a minute, what?
You have no power, you have no food, you have no water, you have no house, you have no gas. You have no internet.
Is it $750 per person, or is it $750 per family? What is?
I don't know. Even at that, let's say hypothetically, there's 5 people in your household.
Okay.
So you $4,000. How long would $4,000 last you if you have lost everything? And I mean everything. Your house, your cars, your clothes, your food. It's $750.
Jeez.
And then you hear FEMA's run out of money. Heard that. Oh, well, it ran out of money because it was giving it to illegals.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay. Oh,
but the single dumbest quote that I've heard on this came from the Speaker of the House.
What did he say?
Republican Mike Johnson said, well, people, you have to understand that the money that's going to illegals comes from a different fund. So I understand why people might be upset about the 750, but that's coming from a different fund. Okay, now I'm going to speak as an American citizen here. There's one fund. The one fund is all the money you take from us.
No,
that's one big fund.
That's one.
How you allocate it.
That's
don't try to shove this down my throat. Oh, that's in a different fund.
Right.
Really?
Right. And we work hard. We work hard. Yeah.
If we're supposed to buy this, and by the way, I'm not even bringing the illegal. Forget the illegal immigration stuff for a moment.
Yeah. Right.
You can do this, and at the same time, send how many billions of dollars overseas to other countries?
Mm, I knew
Is
you
this
were
what we talked about once before? You're taking care of somebody else's kids before you're taking care of your own.
mm, mm.
$750 when you've lost everything, and then you give some dumbass quote about, well, it's a different fund. Really?
That makes me feel so much better. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
And then every single one of you who voted to send all this money overseas.
Was it 8.1 billion, I think? But the actual recovery cost for Hurricane Helene is like 9 point something billion. So y'all took that money instead of giving it back to the people to do what was necessary. And I am, let's fact check because I love to do that.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, FEMA has enough money.
Right.
But check this out. Now they're saying, let me just go ahead and read it because I don't want to say anything out of pocket. Besides responding to the destruction caused by Hurricane Helene in the U.S., emergency workers are battling online misinformation that could dissuade survivors from accepting disaster relief. Some false claims have focused on the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, $750 payments for essential supplies. Breaking: hurricane victims are now realizing that the $750 from FEMA that Kamala Harris is offering them is actually a loan, not real relief. That's what someone wrote on X on October 4th, and that if they don't pay it back, the feds can seize their property. These people don't even have property anymore because of the hurricane. Now, Anderson of Smith County, Texas, actually pleaded not guilty to charges stemming from his actions on January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol, and all of that. So he's got this X handle, Vote Harris Out XYZ. So the narrative also spread on TikTok. So basically, this is a lie. In one video that drew almost 400,000 views, stating that this is a loan. It is not a loan. There is a contract at the beginning of when the inspector gets there before he starts inspecting. In that contract, if you do not pay the money back, it is a loan. And even if it's just $1 or $750, if you don't pay it back, they have the right to seize all of your property.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm confused.
Yeah.
Is what you just read, is it a loan or is it not a loan?
It is not a loan. Okay. FEMA is indicating, so I'm reading to kind of set this up just a little bit. So so it's going around on TikTok that it's a loan and that people are going to get their property seized if they don't pay the $750 back. So these claims, according to FEMA, are baseless. FEMA's assistance payment for essential supplies is not a loan, and the agency does not seize your property. The number one goal is for, of course, survivors to get the assistance that they need and that they deserve. But here's another issue that I have. I'm going to also put this out. $750 for what? Is it? Oh my God. We just asked this question. It's a one-time $750 per household payment. What am I going to do with $750? And I have me, the husband, my mother-in-law, the sick kid, 5 children, and we literally are in a hotel that the Red Cross has stopped paying for. What am I going to do with $750?
Well, apparently you're supposed to say thank you and be a happy little servant while they send all of the money that they took from you in taxes to another country.
Why do you have to say it like that, man? Because
that's what it is.
I'm like, you're right. These are hardworking people who get up and go to work every single day. Yep. And you mean to tell me that that's money,
what they're worth. That's all they're worth.
If this was not water, I would pour something else in here. Oh my goodness.
And they've got us all worried about race relations or Republican, Democrat. Really? It's all of you up there completely. What are these people going to do? Here's your $750 for your household. Good luck. You're starting over. Remember, You got to
Just
figure they lost their jobs because the jobs aren't even there anymore. That's gone. They've lost everything. So here's your $750. Even if you made money online, you don't have a computer.
I can't work if I don't have access to those. So
And you're worth, that's all you and your family are
our
worth.
work.
And we're supposed to buy that and argue about, oh, do we want to vote for Kamala? Do we want to vote for Trump? Which one of you has done anything to actually help us? Well, what about the insurance? What do you, well, first, insurance rates are going to go through the roof.
Of course they are.
If they even pay for it.
Even if they pay for it.
Insurance is such a huge, you have a thing like this, an insurance company could easily go, well, there's too many, we're just going to file bankruptcy. And all the top dollars are going to walk away with millions and not pay for all this.
My goodness. It's so many, it's so much. We could go down this rabbit hole continuously. You really just made me, I just had an aha moment. So I get up and I go to work. Uncle Sam takes his money before I get my money. And you're going to give me $750.
That's what your entire household is worth to our own government.
I feel like we're on a train with no engineer. And so you have this. So
do you really believe it will get better no matter who wins the election?
Absolutely not, because there's too much cleanup. It's not like we're starting with a clean slate. You're literally picking up from the last guy who picked up from the last guy who picked up from the last guy. And now you're telling me that you're going to fix what all of these last guys did for the past 40, 50 years. It's all, I'm going to cuss. It's all bullshit to me. I'm sorry. It is. Because you're not going to tell me now all of a sudden your policies are better than his. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to go fix this and I'm going to go fix that. No way. It's 4 years is not enough time to fix it's going to literally take.
It's going to take decades. And then let's bring it right back to this mess we got now with the $750. It's like, okay, that's from the current administration. Do you think the next administration is going to do anything to help these people anymore? I don't. I don't think they will do one penny's worth more. You know who actually helps these people? The other citizens.
Because they're right there,
The other citizens who bring in supplies on their own, who go to help their fellow man. Yeah. That's it. That's who actually helps them. We are worth nothing to our own government, and it doesn't matter which one's in charge. I mean,
5 feet of water in your house, and you're going to give me $750.
If there's anything that proves that our own government is not only not working for us, but is actively working against us. That's it. How many people? Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And that's all they're worth. But we can send all kinds of billions of dollars overseas every day.
Right now to fight in a war that benefits us in no way. When you have people who are right here who need support in towns that will never be able to be replaced because they're completely underwater. And from what I'm understanding right now, with this entire, Hurricane Milton, number one, there's another storm that's coming behind it, already starting to form in the ocean.
Yep.
It's headed in the same direction. And so you're talking back to back to back storms. I believe, this is just me. I saw a documentary years ago, and I know we got to wrap up, but I saw a documentary years ago talking about there were certain areas of Miami that you could see the water coming up from the ground, right? And they were saying that Miami was sinking, and that other portions of Florida were starting to you're starting to see more erosion than normal. And I thought, oh wow, that's really interesting. But in something as cataclysmic as this, and they're thinking about a new category, calling it category 6, and calling it a hyperclone. And so you're talking about all of this water that's literally, I believe we're witnessing portions of the United States completely disappearing.
It's quite possible. It is quite possible.
Yeah.
And you know how elections always have an October surprise? Looks like the surprises this time are hurricanes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And DeSantis,
by the way, these people won't even be able to vote.
Yeah.
You have nothing else, so you can't vote.
Can't vote. And DeSantis doesn't want to play nice. He doesn't want to talk to Kamala. They actually interviewed her on The View, and I know we got to wrap up, but they interviewed her on The View, and DeSantis indicated that he didn't want to talk to her because you've never called before. Now all of a sudden you want to call now. And they wanted her to address it.
It was the president's job.
Yeah. Well, she called. And Biden called too. But when she called to try to offer assistance, his thing was, I don't want to talk to her because you've never called before. Why call now? Oh, it's because it's an election season and this is you think this is going to look good for you. Well, if they think that John Q. Public is that stupid, they've got another thing coming. We're fully aware
enough. He did that, and then Biden complimented DeSantis, and it's like this whole thing is just utterly ridiculous because I don't care what your label is. This isn't about you. It's about John Q. Public.
Yes.
Who's in trouble.
Yes.
Not of their own making, but because of a disaster. I don't care if you hate each other. You need to work together to take care of John Q. Public.
I agree. I 100% agree with you on that. So we're going down the wrong rabbit holes when in reality, you've got people that have no gas. There are people that were stuck on the highway for 10 hours and decided to turn around because they couldn't get out of the state. And so they're literally stuck at home. Waiting for things, and it's beginning to rain. And so I'm going to say this, and then of course I'm going to turn it back over to you. But my prayers are with those people. My daughter is in Florida. She's in Tallahassee, however, and she's keeping me posted because they can't get out. And even though Tallahassee is more towards where it's more towards Georgia, they will get the torrential rains. They'll get some tornadoes, no doubt. And I'm just telling her, she's in college right now. I'm just telling her to just lay low and keep us posted, because whatever we got to do, if we have to take the back roads to come and pick you up, we will. And she said this morning she woke up and the skies were blue. And I said, well, that's the calm before the storm.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Back over to you.
And I echo your sentiments on praying for these people. Yeah. Because we know that so many of them, through no fault of their own, just as you just said, can't make it out. Mm-hmm. I have a very, very close friend in Jacksonville. You know, there are. I'm completely out of political topics, worried for the people. Yeah. Can't do anything for them. Can't help this.
Right.
And just praying for them and hoping you can lose everything, but if you still have your family, you can start over, as hard as it is.
Start over. Yeah. Yeah.
You have the things that actually matter.
Absolutely.
So this was a different type of podcast than what we normally talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I really felt it was important to touch on current event topics, because especially with these hurricanes, it shows how we as a people don't really care about labels when it comes to helping each other. Mm-mm. The only people that care about those labels are the elected people.
Yeah.
The rest
Most
of us would
times,
go
yeah.
in and help rescue somebody and wouldn't care what their political views,
Mhm.
what their sexual views, what their any color, but we wouldn't care.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's only the people in power that do. And I think it's sad. But that's
Mm.
where we are. And it's about time to wrap this up. This
Yeah.
has been a really good discussion.
Good discussion. Excellent.
Um,
Excellent discussion.
so with that, thank Dr. Clark for being on here and bantering with me.
Yes.
and
This was good.
I hope that all the people involved can stay safe. And remember, it's everything's going on. Just hug your kids a little bit more tonight because it's
Yeah.
really tough for them.
Yeah.
With that, we'll be signing off, and we will see you next time on Balanced.
All right. Have a great one, guys.